I'm waiting.
Well, here's my rant, and that is that when you see prices go through the roof, for no apparent reason. I mean,
Right.
is World War III happening? No. Has our Alberta oil sands suddenly had a catastrophic, shutdown? No.
Nope.
Has something gone wrong in our distribution system? No. So why has
Nope.
gas almost doubled in the last 5 years? I don't know.
Because somebody is controlling us
And
from the other
yeah,
side.
and then there's the food situation.
That's right.
The Canadian dollar has been pretty well stable. It's
Right.
gone. It's always about 30%, 20% less than the U.S.
No,
dollar.
no, 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 no. They
Uh huh.
forced, someone manipulated the exchange rate, okay?
Yes, I agree.
Currently, it's over a buck 42.
Well, that's 42% difference from the American exchange rate. And what's the reason for that? Because usually it's between
Nothing.
20 and 30. So how could it suddenly go to 42? Is there something going on? And by the way, did you see that in the newspaper? Was anybody commenting on that? No. Well,
Nope.
that's because we're walking to the tune of a Pied Piper.
That's right.
We are being led. We're
Hmm.
not in control of our own destiny. Somebody is controlling our macroeconomic levers, and
That's
and
right.
and we don't even know about it because those same people are controlling our media. And
That's right.
what they're doing, instead of allowing us to understand and
Yes.
rightfully protest about these things that are affecting the food on our tables, what they're doing is they're filling us full of artificial wedge issues.
That's right.
Things like dancing queens in our libraries,
Drag queens.
or sexualization agitation propaganda in our schools.
That's right.
And I'm going to use terms from the 19th century because that's when all this stuff was invented by Karl Marx and Engels. Okay?
That's right.
It's all to do with taking a population and herding them in a certain direction according to your will. And it has
Hmm.
nothing to do with self sufficiency, it has nothing to do with sovereignty, it has nothing to do with democracy, and it has nothing to do with human rights. What it
Right.
has to do is with propaganda, subjugation, fear,
Yep.
and what I call corralling. You gotta
Hmm.
take those wild, out of control humans and build a fence and corral them. And once you
Right.
can corral them, you can feed them into what we call the chute.
Hmm.
Now, what's the chute? The chute is where they have that fumatic little hammer thing that you put a
Yes.
compressed air tank on one side and it shoots out quickly on the other side. And you know what they do with
Yep.
that thing? They hold it up to the animal's head. And
Right.
once they push the lever, that little fumatic bar, that iron bar, just goes shooting right out into its brain.
Right.
And that's how they slaughter steers.
Yep.
And there's no pain, there's no noise. It's a
Right.
silent process. And that's what we're living through right now. We're living through a silent process of our own extermination.
Hmm.
We're good. And you think that that's an exaggeration? Well, look at the streets.
Hmm.
Do you see anybody lying there? Do you see anybody prostrate without a house? Do you see anybody begging for change? Do you see anybody out of their minds on a drug that's cheaper than food?
Hmm.
What kind of society are you living in that you don't even understand? Well, I'll tell you, it's the one of the herd and the corral and the chute. And it's all set up.
Right.
It's all set up for your voluntary removal. Because,
Hmm.
if you're not going to fight back, if you're not going to say something, if you're going to accept all these things, for example, are you sending your children to school? Well, the answer to that for most people would be yes.
Hmm.
Why are you sending your children to school to be sexualized and indoctrinated and to live, in the words of my grade 6 student, and
Hmm.
to live in an environment where you're being forced to question your own sexual identity?
Hmm.
And this is a girl who doesn't even have a sexuality yet because she's before her first period.
That's right.
So what the WF is going on? Well, what's going on is child abuse, pure and simple. Okay? In other words, it's a psychological confusion. And, you know, a school is supposed to be a place where children are protected, where
Sure.
our teachers and our counselors have their best interests at heart, not where they're pushing an agenda from outside forces or outside agitation provocateurs. This does
Hmm.
not belong in our schools. Yet, why are there not thousands of parents protesting and stopping the school buses from delivering their children to the chute?
Hmm.
Why is that? Are we cows after all?
Yeah, we are.
Now, I would like to think that in some societies, when you stand up and when you protest, you might be at risk of bullets. You might be at risk of being arrested. Is that Canada? Can we have a protest? Can we have a disagreement? Can we have a movement to protect our children without being in fear of being prosecuted?
Well, Turtle is
No,
disallowing us to
wasn't there a
disagree with him.
law recently enacted, something about being
Of
100
course.
meters away from any school?
Of course.
Do you think that's a democratic law in a civilized
It's
society?
not.
Do you think that
It's not.
that violates the Bill of Rights and Freedoms in this country, which
Of
allows for
course.
association anywhere, which allows for collective groups of people to band together anywhere? You know, what's going on here? Is there suddenly is the school that your children go to suddenly a prison where you're not allowed to approach the gates? And you're not allowed to know what's going on there because I have heard from reliable sources that if a child goes to a teacher and says that they feel uncomfortable in their physical sexual identity and would like to transition, that the parents will not be informed of that.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have any direct evidence of this kind of monstrous crime against our children, but there's been rumors, and I think that this is actually an attack on our the basic core of our society. When there's a war, why do people lay down their tools and pick up their rifles? Is it to defend their country? That's an abstract concept. No,
Right.
it's to defend their families, their children.
Hmm.
You're
Hmm.
doing that because you don't want to be invaded or you don't want to be economically castrated by another power that's going to embargo your trade or destroy your standard of living. Isn't that the reason that men defend their countries? It's because they think they're defending their hearths and their homes and their children because that's what's under threat. Now, that may be real or imagined, but if you look at the propaganda posters, it's not about a flag. It's about your wife and children and the farm and the house and the hearth and the home. Okay? But we have our very children under attack at this moment by an insidious psychological gun, weapon aimed at their young lives. And what are we doing about it? Are we actually going to sit around and watch television instead of doing something? I must say that I'm not only disappointed, but I'm shocked because this is in Canada at least. This is a nation that sent its brave young men to fight 2 world wars against fascism, and that fascism was a racist, and it was a misogynist, and it was certainly fascistic, and in every way. And yet, how is that different from having a Star of David on stenciled on your jacket, or being forced to wear an LBGQXYZ flag? I don't personally see the difference. You're being labeled. You're being labeled as one or the other. It's a wedge issue. There's flags, there's stickers in our schools. What? What's the difference between that and a swastika flying from the flagpole? These places are for education, not for indoctrination. What do you think? when are Canadians going to stand up?